we're going to discuss a few more properties of exponents. The first one is known as the power of a power property. This one says to find the power of a power, we multiply the exponents. What do I mean by the power of a power? So if I have something like this, 8 to the third, actually before we even go to that, let's talk about just in general, like if I have a to the m power and I want to raise that to the n power. So I have a power to another power. When that happens, I multiply the exponents. So this is going to be equal to a raised to the m times n power, or just a to the mn, you could write it as. So that's not to be confused with the other rule where you add the exponents. So we'll do a little reminder. So we'll say not the same as a to the m times a to the n. So remember, if we have something like this, where we're multiplying two things with the same base, that's when we add the exponents. So try not to confuse it with that property. So let's try using this. It says simplify the expression, 8 to the third raised to the fourth. So I'm going to take, this is a power to a power, so I'm going to multiply their exponents. This is going to be 8 to the 3 times 4 power, which is 8 to the 12th. And that's it. I'll do a similar thing here. I've got 6 squared raised to the 13th power. So again, I'm going to just multiply their exponents since it's a power to a power. So 6 to the 2 times 13 gives me 6 to the 26th power. That would be a giant number. And I have 4 cubed raised to the 9th power. So this is going to be 4 to the 3 times 9 power, which simplifies to 4 to the 27th. 4 to the 27th. Okay, my next property I'm going to talk about is a product raised to a power. And we'll write down the definition first. So to find the power of a product, find the power of each factor and multiply. So for example, if I have something like AB raised to the m power. Since A and B are right next to each other, that's a product. They're being multiplied together. So this is a product, and since this is in parentheses, I'm raising that whole product to the m power. So when that happens, I take each of the factors, so each of the separate things being multiplied, and raise them to the m power. So this is equal to a to the m times b to the m. And I've used my product, or power of a product property there. And let's try it with a number, or numbers. So if I have something like 3 times 4 raised to the second power. It is true that I could say, okay, 3 times 4 is 12, and raise that to the second power using order of operations. But that is equal to, if I were to say 3 squared times 4 squared. This is a product. They're being multiplied. So I take both of the factors and square them. If I wanted to take this one step further, I could say this is equal to 9 times 16. Okay, and let's use this property. So to simplify the expression, I have 3y, and that whole thing is raised to the second power. It's in parentheses, so I have a product raised to a power. This is 3 times y, since the 3 and the y are right next to each other. So I need to take both of the factors, 3 raise it to the second power, times y to the second power. And if I want to simplify this even further, I could say, well, I know 3 squared is not 3 times 2, but it's 3 times 3, which is 9. So I could say this is equal to 9y squared. Okay, the next one I have negative 4b raised to the third power. This is negative 4 times b, since they're right next to each other. So that means I'm going to take both factors. So negative 4, I'm going to raise that to the third power, times b to the third power. So negative 4 to the third power means do negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. And then I still have my b cubed. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. And then positive 16 times negative 4 gives me negative 64. B cubed. And since they're right next to each other, that's again signifying multiplication. Okay, next I have 10 cubed times 10 squared, and the whole thing is raised to the fourth power. So this one's a little bit challenging. So if you want to kind of star it and put challenge, this would be one of the more challenging problems, because it actually combines both of the properties we just talked about. So the first one, well, this is a product because two things are being multiplied together. So actually I'm going to take both of these, even though there's exponents, and raise them to the fourth power. So this is equal to 10 cubed. I need to raise that to the fourth power, and I need to raise 10 squared to the fourth power. So I took both parts and raised them to the fourth power. Now I'm going to use the first property we talked about up here, the power of a power property, and I'm going to multiply my exponents. So 10 to the third power to the fourth power, that means multiply those. So this is 10 to the 3 times 4 power. And over here I need to do 10 to the 2 times 4 power. And I can say that's 10 to the 12th power times 10 to the 8th power. And look at that. Actually, we're going to use a third property that we talked about. I'm multiplying two things that have the same base, so I'm going to just add their exponents. This is equal to 10 to the 12 plus 8 power. And that's going to give me 10 to the 20th. Sorry, I thought I messed up somewhere there. That's why I paused. But we're good. So my final answer is 10 to the 20th. Okay, and let's try a couple more. So right here I have negative 2x squared. That whole thing raised to the third power. So I have two things being multiplied together here, and I need to multiply or raise them both to the third power. So I'm going to take negative 2 and raise it to the third power, times x squared, raise that to the third power. Negative 2 to the third power means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So that's going to give me negative 8. And then here I have a power to a power, so I multiply those exponents. X to the 2 times 3. And I'll make this negative 8. X to the 2 times 3 is 6. So there's my final answer. And we're going to go over two more. Okay, down here I have the opposite of 3m squared. So notice the negative sign is on the outside of the parentheses, rather than here we have a negative sign on the inside, negative sign on the inside of the parentheses. This meant I needed to cube negative 2. Like negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. This means do everything inside the parentheses, like raise everything to the second power, and then take the opposite of your answer. So I'm going to zoom in, And then, so I'm going to say, I'm going to leave that negative sign alone for now. And I'm going to say raise 3 to the second power. Since this is a product, 3 times m, I need to do 3 squared times m squared. And since the negative is not in parentheses with the 3, this just means do 3 squared and then take the opposite. So 3 squared would be 9, and then the opposite of 9 is negative 9. So I get negative 9m squared. Okay, let's do one more. Now I have 3 things being multiplied together here, all raised to the third power. So I'm going to take each of them and raise them each to the third power. 7 cubed times x cubed times z to the 4th cubed. When I raise a power to a power, I always want to put that in parentheses. So 7 cubed, that means 7 times 7 times 7. You could use a calculator for that. You get 343. X cubed, there's nothing I have to do there, but I do have a power to a power here, which means multiply my exponents. So that's z to the 4 times 3. That's going to give me a final answer of 343, x to the 3rd times z to the 12th. And I am done.